Moderator, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our September meeting. Welcome to the staff, our press, comms people, and our public forum. Welcome. Welcome to our members, of course, and I'll start the meeting with the karakia. And I understand, Rabbit, you have something that you want to share with us this morning.
I think, yeah, I was going to tag in. Good morning. For all of us, seek knowledge and enlightenment. Have purpose in all that you do. Stand tall, be strong. May peace be widespread. Let us show respect, love, and consideration.
Kia ora tātou. Me mehi ana ki a koutou te ata nei. Me tuana ki te hāpai te Māori o te ao Māori, me te tautoko a Rabbit. E te wānau, whai a kia marama. Kia whai take e roto i au mahi katoa. Kia tū, kia kaha, kia hora te marino. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou kia tātou katoa. Kia ora.
And welcome to those on Zoom. We'll have one or two people join us as the items progress, but welcome Vivian online Zoom. We do have apologies, one from Korty Wilson. Is there any other apologies, please? Channey Korty is unwell. Is there any other apologies? If not, someone would like to move the be sustained. And Fiona, is there any discussion? If not, I put it all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Declarations of interest. Any member may have conflict of interest, please. You'd like to clear that now?
Yes, I have conflict on items 10 and 11.
10, 11, thank you. Are there any other conflicts of interest in any shape or form? If not, that's fine, thank you. And any stage during the meeting, you're welcome to express that conflict of interest as well. Now, going to notification of any additional, any urgent attention at all, Mr. Chief Executive?
No.
Nothing at all. Any mindings matters relating to the general business in any shape or form? Take it as no. Confirmation of the order of meeting. We do have a public forum, of course, each of our meetings, and some would like to move that we move into a public forum. Councillor Lyn and Brenda seconds. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Aye. Carried. So that brings us to any member of the public who wishes to come forward for 5 minutes, and then we can ask questions of you. So, Mr. Prue, welcome. Thank you. I'd like to take the chair at the end of the table, and the floor is yours for 5 minutes, and then there may be some questions as well. So, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here as a ratepayer, a taxpayer, chair of the Ohakune Carrot Park Trust, and a lifelong resident of Ohakune. Firstly, I want to say that I'm not opposed to the provision of social housing. Who provides this housing is not the important question and could be debated all day. The important question is whether a greenfields development, that is an area without roading, sewage, water or power, is the right way to go. It will be hugely expensive and take 2 or 3 years. Is that the best way to provide the 15 social houses required in Ohakune now? You all know that some of the houses available in Ohakune for purchase are good quality homes, and others that could be made so at small expense. As a ratepayer, I am concerned that the present council may be entering into a venture that will overload our infrastructure and leave a legacy of debt to your ratepayers. As chair of the Ohakune Carrot Park Trust, we oppose the development on the following grounds. It will create a traffic bottleneck on Teitei Drive. It will diminish the rural aspect of the park, which visitors find so attractive. It will curtail future expansion plans for the park. Who knows what the future might be? Our Carrot Park, the Disneyland of New Zealand. Rangaora plans a further 100 houses in fields 2 and 3. And should this eventuate, it will have an impact on the Carrot Park in many ways. The Carrot Park Trust is opposed to any development of the 9-hectare block of land in question. This should be kept rural and available to grow the crops that make Ohakuni famous and prosperous. Finally, as a lifetime resident of Ohakuni, I feel that even if your hearts are in the right place, you have to listen to the overwhelming opposition of your residents and ratepayers and look for another place to provide this housing. I'm prepared to take any questions.
Tēnā koe. Thank you for coming today. Just when you say the impact on many ways on the Carrot Park, can you tell us what are those many ways? Some examples of that?
Okay, if you finish up with a huge block of housing in there, which is going to be primarily low socioeconomic housing, you're going to have a whole lot of people there, and you are likely to have social problems, such as antisocial behaviour. And anybody who says this won't happen, I'm hoping they're right. But there'll be traffic, there'll be all of those people are going to have to travel through the Carrot Park. But the main thing is that this development will be enormously expensive. And it's all very well to say that, okay, the money's coming from the government, but ultimately it comes from the taxpayer.
Yeah, I get that, but it was impact on the park, not impact on the ratepayer.
Okay.
So that your many ways of impact. So I've got low socioeconomic people, antisocial behaviour, and
That's
I've got
possibility.
yep, and I've got you saying traffic travel through. Is there any other impacts that you feel on the Carrot Park?
Yes, just the fact that it ruins the rural aspect of the park. You're surrounding the park with housing. When people come here, they arrive there, and here's this park that's sort of, you're looking out on a rural aspect, and people love it. It's sort of, if you're an Aucklander, say, or from Wellington or what have you, and you drive to Ohakuni and you drive into that Carrot Park, it's bloody marvellous. And I just don't want to see it jeopardised. And I could be totally wrong. Maybe you can put 140 houses in behind there, and it won't affect the Carrot Park. But I think you're dreaming if you think that is the case.
Thank you.
Got one, thank you. We've got one question online Zoom, Vivian. Would you like to ask your question now, please?
Kia ora, Ron. Sorry, I'm not. Apologies first that I'm not there.
I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to ask a question about keeping that site rural and growing vegetables there. Is that what you said? I couldn't quite hear it. It started a bit.
Okay, well, the first field isn't that good, but the two things which I haven't mentioned that I'm also the neighbouring landowner of this block, and I have to say that at no point has anybody ever come to me as the neighbouring landowner and talked about this development, and that's pretty surprising. So fields 2 and 3. I'd be hazarding a guess there, but I think there'd be at least 4, perhaps at least 4 hectares of land which in the previous had been gardened in the past. There's heaps of other land in Ohakuni. There's, it's an empty space, and to suddenly go for a greenfields development that's going to be hugely expensive to the taxpayer and possibly expensive to the ratepayer, there are better ways to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, just a second.
Second question.
And the future expansion of the Carrot Park. So was that site set aside for the rest of the Carrot Park? Just so I'm clear.
Sorry.
You said future expansion of the Carrot Park. So was that site that's council owned that's looking at the proposal for Teitei Drive, was that also set aside for the Carrot Park?
Well, if I don't know. At the moment, we've got plenty of room in the Carrot Park, but who knows what the future will bring, And as you well know, the Carrot Park has been driven by my wife and Dave Scott. And Dave keeps coming up with new ideas, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And our family and a number of families in this district have contributed enormously to the development of that Carrot Park. And you will have it on record from my letters to the paper that I've already been told by 4 people that if this development goes ahead, there will be no further private donations, and in all likelihood, the Carrot Park Trust will wind up and full control of the Carrot Park back to the Remains to go.
Thank you. Lyn.
Wasn't around when the Carrot Park started, so can you give us a little bit of history around how that developed?
Okay, well, way back, there was a group of us having a good session in the bar in the public hotel in Ohakuni, and somebody suggested they'd seen that big carrot that was used for an ANZ promotion back in. And Peter Hammond said, why don't we get that carrot and bring it to Ohakuni and, you know, paint it orange and and that's how the Carrot Park started. And that was open back in the day in the 1980s. And then at that time, I was chair of the in the Ohakuni Growers Association, and we undertook that we would make, the council gave us permission to put the carrot up right by the road there, and we developed a little garden and a bit of a walkway around, and we under my thing, we undertook that it wouldn't be a council thing to maintain that little site. Well, after a few years, things started to deteriorate, and I'd stepped aside from being chair, and then anyway, I felt I had to go back in and tidy that thing up. And my plans were to just do a small tidy up in the immediate area around the carrot. I had no concept of the Carrot Park. And I was working up there on the site, and Dave Scott came along and said, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And Dave is a bloody good salesperson. And as a consequence of that, we started off, we had some funds in the Ohakuni Growers Association. We had about $25,000. And so I thought, what can we do here to get people to come to Ohakuni? And so with that $25,000, we built that shelter and we put up those signs promoting our vegetables. And that was the start. But the real ideas man behind the thing has been Dave Scott, and the workhorse has been Peggy. And she has sold and overseen between 800 and 1,000 bricks, which all had to have this correct spelling, sent to Wellington, come back and put in. Dave's idea was a 3-metre strip of concrete would cost you $300. And he said, we'll build a concrete path from the carrot to the swimming baths. Yes, Dave. Okay, Dave, you were dreaming. Anyway, I kicked that off with one section of concrete for each of our 10 grandchildren. And that was the start of it. And that path, there's paths all over the place now. But every rock you see in there has come from our farm and been placed with our diggers. So I'm pretty proud of it.
I can understand that is fantastic. I can understand why it's so significant. It was designed as a destination park or a playground for kids?
Both, really. I mean, look, you know, it's got that beautiful stream running through there, the Teitei stream. It's got original beech forest. It's, you know, I mean, it's just bloody marvelous.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Okay, one more question. Or two.
3, because Viv is 2.
Oh, right.
We're allowed as many questions.
Thank you, Robyn. That's all beside that.
Thank you, Ron. I'm sorry, but as a local councillor, I haven't met you down the site there, but I have taken a few of your calls like that. From what I understand, before that, one of my first driving jobs in Whanganui in the middle 80s was to bring up reinforcing steel, and there was an empty paddock where the carrot park was. So it was done an ounce sum of steel in Whanganui, and I put when I was doing, started driving, I was doing a freight run up to Tamaranui. I dropped the steel off for that, for some, there's nothing there. So I dropped steel, but that's not my question. But from what I understand, stage 2 and 3 may not go ahead. Is that what I understand?
Is that a question to him?
Like that. But so if that's the case, how would you, what would your thoughts be if the development was moved more down to the rugby club end?
Well, that, you know, that's a decision that you guys have to make. It's not mine. I just don't want to see any housing over here at all.
Okay, but it's only 1.6, you know, in the initial first lot. And when you look at it, and I had a look at the other day there, what it looked like on that first piece and what it would look like it was transferred up to the rugby grounds there, and then coming out, having the access coming out onto the Rati Oakuni Road. Will that satisfy some people?
It possibly will. Personally, I think there's heaps of other sites in Oakuni that would be better, closer to the schools, so they don't have to cross the highway. And yeah, so I'm just opposed to any housing going in that area at all. I think we need to preserve that rural atmosphere.
Okay, we've got 2 other questions. Janelle first, and then Vivian online.
Hi, well, welcome. I would like to commend you and your wife and Dave for the incredible
And
Elaine for your incredible contribution to the Carrot Park over the years and kickstarting that concrete pathway and whatnot. It is an incredible thing that you guys have done there for our community. And the thing that I am really struggling with is that we had a conversation the other day, and you said the problem was that poor people are going to be living there. And I think the real thing for me is that to be eligible for social housing, you have to earn under a threshold. And when you look at the average income of people living in our community, they are low socioeconomic. They are under that threshold. They are living in this town already. So what do you think the difference will be? Someone living 100 metres up the road and someone living right next to the carrot park in terms of a hazard to the park?
well, the basic thing is that it's never a good idea to concentrate either wealthy people in one area and poor people in another area, you know? And look, the big problem New Zealand's got is we're not making a big enough cake. You know, to raise the standard of living in New Zealand, we've got to produce and export more. And I know I'm getting a little bit off course here, but I mean, we've all got different opinions on this. As I say, I don't want to see another development like Dave Holland's development there. You know, with that absentee owners, I don't want to see that. I don't want any houses in that area.
Okay, thank you, Ben. We've got Vivian online.
I have
Oh,
a question. So you say there's lots of bits of land around the town that we could use.
Yes.
So the land at Teitei Drive is council land. These other bits of land that you think that we can use, not council land. Would you be happy with us using your ratepayer money to buy that land and put it somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Vivian.
Oh, we haven't gotten it there.
And if you want to, I'll buy the 9 hectares and donate it to the current park.
Wow, was it 9 million?
No. That's very kind, Ron.
Okay.
Yeah. Online.
Okay, sorry, just a couple more questions. I did have some questions, but I was cut off. Anyway, the Carrot Park site, was that council land, whose land was that?
Going back, it was railway land. It was the original site of the Rochford railway station. And I assume that when the railways devolved it to the council, I don't really know that question.
Return to Molly.
What I was asking that for was there consultation with the community when you developed the Carrot Park?
I think it was all done in consultation with the Rotorua Council, yes.
Okay, and do you know Dave Scott's stance with regards to that development in Teitei Drive?
Sorry?
Do you know Dave Scott's, you talked a lot about Dave initiating this, he's really proud of the park. He's
Yes.
done a lot of work as well with it. Do you know his stance? Like
His
you've made it
stance?
clear that on the Teitei Drive development.
He's opposed to it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, there are 10 people on the trust, the Carrot Park Trust. 8 of them have said they don't want the development to happen. The other 2 who are not opposing it are both conflicted in that one is a building contractor and another is a fencing contractor. Thank you.
No further questions?
Because it'll get work if the development goes ahead.
Oh, so like, just like ribbon.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't normally do council work.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. for
Okay.
that contribution.
If anybody would like a copy of what I've said, I do have some available.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll just leave the rest here, okay? And thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Is there any other members of the public wishing to come forward in the public forum? Not Richard?
Morning, I'm Richard Lyn, a resident, long-time resident, right? Not a local, I believe. I don't know how you become a local, right? Been here 35 years in a number of roles and run a number of businesses in town and been involved in a number of initiatives and to keep them going for the betterment of our community. I can sit down and it's a little bit
Can
easy.
I just ask your last name, sorry?
No.
No. Thank you.
Okay, I have noted, I have watched with interest, having seen this document. I have a number of issues around the development. I'm not opposed to development as such, but I think that there are a number of issues which need to be addressed. And I think, I've just made some notes here this morning. A lot of stuff has come in the last 48 hours. I just physically don't have the time to go through the 65-page document, all right, issued by the council, and another 20-page from the official information, release of information. So I've read anything. I've been a party to some other information which I don't know whereabouts that is in the public domain. I have concerns about the decision that is up for discussion today on either to develop, either to approve the development or to I don't know what the other decision would be, whether it be not approve or defer. Okay, so I have some issues that I would like to hear. So some information has, as I understand it, on my brief viewing of the information that's been available, is that some information has been withheld from public discussion. or has not been made, or is available in some areas, but not generally recognised and been made available to people who are making decisions. My understanding is that to approve today is to lock in the funding available for the development from the other parties, right? And those other parties are Consultation and believe there are other agencies which are available. I think it's about, my understanding is that the approval today is about the fund, is to secure that funding. But I have a real issue about going down the track of approving the funding of taking the money without everybody being completely aware as to what that opens up, the possibilities to happen further on down the track. What are we locking ourselves into? All right. A carrot has been put in front of us, right? X amount of money to solve a bit of a problem. That money was, as I understand it, was put together, was offered to the council or to the project because we were perceived as being shovel ready, right? From the Shane James funding. I think it was Shane James, wasn't it? Possibly, yeah, goes to go, yeah. I think we need to, my request is that we need to defer. All right, and I'll come back to that later on. I think we've been a bit hasty in because of the funding issue, because the funding issue is only open for a certain period of time. And I think that is we're quite close to that, that cut-off point where we must approve the funding, right, to make the whole thing go ahead. Again, some of the issues that I have are around the safety of the people using the carrot park. At the moment, we have possibly 1,000 people a day, but Dave has more honest figures on that. Using that park. Every time I go past that park, the next 2 weeks, it's going to go ballistic down there, right? And even on a rainy day, right? People are there. It is internationally recognised as a park of excellence. I think to put a residential development there next door, right, increases the traffic flow and makes it more dangerous. At the moment, it's just the carrot park. People are going there with the idea of just having some fun. I think if you put residential in there as well, right, it changes the dynamics, right? NZTA, I believe, are concerned about the excess traffic, right? So they're involved. I don't see that anywhere. There's a lot of development. There's a lot of questions that have not been answered with regards to those extra issues. About 12 months ago, I think, there were some boards placed in this room from Bochum High School, I think, with regards to the town development. Part of one of those boards was south of the Mangateo, right, the area that we're talking about. And that was the development of that in relation to the development of Ohakuni itself and the concept of a sporting precinct down there in that area was developed, right? Now that is on a shared farm. But it's on that document, which is on the council website, right? A sporting precinct was mooted as a possible use of that area, right? I think it's great. The rugby club is already there, right? Other things could well be happening in there. Putting housing in there, yeah, I think it would restrict the development of that park and that area, right? Okay, I have a real issue, and this is information that only came to light about 3 yesterday afternoon, is the size of the sections in that development are are in conflict with the Rupe District Council District Plan. The size of those sites is very, very small. Means that the size of the building you can put on those sites is very, very small. I don't believe that from my professional point of view, I don't believe that the houses that would be built onto those sites would be suitable for what they're intended there for. We're talking about families coming into that area, right, to build to live in a place on a 350 square meter section. A family, right, mum and dad and 3 kids on a 350 square meter section. It's not a lot, and we've got lots of the development, I believe, of that ground is flawed. I asked for the information from Kainoura with regards to what process was given to make that all happen. 69 pages I've got to wait my way through with lots of legal jargon. That's going to take a long time.
We've got a pretty big agenda today.
I know.
Just to wrap up, and then we can ask questions of you. Is that?
This is really important. This is really important for the future of our community. It's not just a decision that we make today and take the whatever $1 million it is, right? This is the next 150. This is 3 generations down the track are going to be influenced by the decision that is made today.
Okay.
I believe that the council needs to defer. The money might be lost, but the gain, I believe, is for our community.
Okay, we stop there and start questions of you. Not the other way around. Someone would like to ask questions of you.
I might have a few, but you came to speak to us when we discussed the public housing strategy in 2020.
Correct.
That was you, and you talked about what the houses should look like, etc., etc. In that document in 2020, we talked about later on 3, 4, 5 potential social housing in Teitei Drive. It was in a document, it just wasn't in the stuff that the public, you had to look deeper for that information. I wondered, because you brought up the conversation around the boards in this room last year, which was the Ahakuni spatial plan, it didn't have the Teitei Drive development on it. It talked about medium density and high density, but it wasn't at Teitei Drive. And I'm asking, did you connect, or were you aware of, because you obviously looked hard at the 2020 conversation around the public housing strategy, did you, you didn't find the information that would link it to the Teitei Drive and therefore it was missing in 2022. It's just the timing that I get is wrong, and I wondered, as you as a professional who got right into that public housing strategy, you were not aware then that this was a proposal that was mooted back in 2020 for, within the 5-year project.
My process and my concerns at the time of 2020, the 2020 report that I wrote, was about the style of houses, right, and what those houses, not necessarily, my focus was not about where housing was going to go, so the Teitei development was not on my radar. I was more looking at, from a professional point of view, the style of those houses, right? I applaud the council for what they did in Maudsley, but I have struggled to find the information either through council or through the contractors who were involved in that development, in the design of those buildings, as to what the performance criteria were for those houses. I still not have had that information. I wanted to know also, with regards to the Teitei development, what was the design criteria of that? Okay, at the moment I see it a reasonable sized block of land being carved up into small bits, and each of those bits being developed in a way. I don't see it as a good development. I see it as a smaller version of what you see when you fly over Papamoa and what you see when you fly over the lakes in Tauranga. I don't think it's good.
Okay, and you as a professional understanding the size, the medium density, the low density, I mean, I appreciated that conversation you came with to us way back in 2020. But I'm saying, my question is, so you don't see that the same sort of, because we did do it in Moore Street, but it was for a different demographic. It was, you know, for our elderly. These as social housing for families on 350 square metre or 400 square metre sections. And you're aware that that doesn't meet our bylaws. I guess you'll understand as a professional what our bylaw is around that and how we'd have to change it. Consultant, I don't know about the 350, but what do you think? You don't see that that sort of housing on that sort of land would fit a family, you know, suit a family that potentially is going to use the Barrett Park?
To access the Carrot Park for a 5 to 7 year old means they have to cross go from that development through to the Carrot Park. I don't know, right? That's a bit of a question that
Perhaps that could be other clarified.
I'm quite happy to have a bigger discussion around that. I realise that there needs to be for that development to happen as it's laid out in here. That's going to need some council to change their rules.
Perhaps we can talk about that with the consent process and other further down the track. This is just a formal process that we're going through now to actually get this over the line. Is there any other questions?
Not from me, thanks.
Okay, and have we got another question? Oh, Vivian, I think was first up.
Oh, fine.
Thank you. Hi, Richard. I've got two questions about what you talked about. One was about the safety of people at the Carrot Park. Is there an issue at the moment with regards to traffic?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know what you would have to get somebody with far more knowledge of than I have with regards to traffic flow and what the expected effect of the increased traffic flow would have on the safety of users in that area. I understand that NZTA have some questions around the access from the state highway into that area and its proximity to the bridge and the whole traffic flow around that area.
Is there an issue now?
No, not that I'm aware of, but I don't know. I'm not aware of any issue or any non-issue because I don't think that question has been asked. That question should.
No, I just want to follow up, just because you said it's the holidays, the mass amount of people down there. That's why I asked, is there an issue now in the holiday period with the huge number of people that are there at the moment?
That I don't know. When I have questioned in the past the traffic flow into that parking area, right? The direction of traffic in that area, I have a concern about that, but there's nothing we can do about that now. That probably should have been asked prior to them actually sealing it.
And my question with regards to the size, as an architect, the size of a 300 square property, and it's not social housing. We've got to get rid of the social word. It's for an affordable home for people who already live in our community to buy. Would that be possible? To keep it affordable, could you design a house to fit in a 300 square area?
Yes, but you would only have the house, there you would have the house and you would have next to no usable play area for the kids outside. The way that I see this development as it stands at the moment in this document is that you would end up with very minimal usable play area around the outside of those houses. There are design criteria, there are design guidelines, international design guidelines for land development. And I believe Going Order have adopted those to a certain extent. But I haven't had the chance to investigate all of that. There are ways of providing housing for on smaller sections, right? And that is the medium density housing initiative, right? And things that happen. I don't think that necessarily needs to be all in one block, right? We can do housing in other areas. Putting all of that together in one shot.
Oh, no, Richard, what I wanted to know is as an architect, to make a home affordable, could you design a home on a 300 square block?
Oh, housing to be affordable, regardless of the size of the land that you're going to put on it, can be reduced, right? When you talk about the cost of the housing, right, we need to factor into that also the ongoing costs of that house, of that building, right? Because so often we are fixated with the initial cost of the building rather than the cost of the building for the next 150 years. And that's a real issue, right? And that was one of the issues that I had around the Moore Street, right? They went with the Moore Street development. It was done to a 99% of passive house, right? But yeah, some issues were left out, right? And I don't know why.
So we have Vivian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Janelle.
Yeah, hi Richard. So we've been in the same meetings, and the future Okuni plan, it has listed on there that area as residential, and it's existing residential. But I did wonder, would you support the development of that area, residential as it was intended, if the section sizes were bigger?
I could provide support to that development, to that land being developed in some way to provide some residential accommodation for people in the town. I'm not completely right, but I would need to. It would need a professional in land development and urban design to create spaces, to create a development which provides for living space as well as play space. It's been done in the past where a piece of land, I think it was in Melbourne, where a piece of land was divided up into 25 sections, right? And everybody had their own little bit. Redevelopment of that, right, provided 28 sections and provided a nice big green space out front, so that everybody, rather than everybody gets a 5 by 5 square to do nothing on, everybody gets half a rugby field to go and play on. Combine all the little ones, right? Make one big one. It's urban development, right? It's urban development principles. It's not my speciality. My speciality is the house and the performance level of those houses.
Just in terms of the, are you aware that not every house is going to be filled with a mum and dad and 3 kids? So if you had one of the small houses, the occupation of those houses will be relevant for the size of the house. And so it could just be a single person, it could be a couple, an elderly couple that who don't necessarily need a lot of play space. And yeah, the full design suite hasn't been done yet, but I'd like to hear your feedback when that does come out.
I have seen some potential designs for those for houses in those areas, and I'm concerned about that. From a passive house side of things, also concerned about, I don't know what consultation council has undertaken with iwi with regards to the development of that land and the development of that.
What's this?
Which one's that?
The concept master plan. And land use.
There's a different document. It was the boards. Yeah, so the document that I have, I can share, which I printed off part of it, right, was the boards that were around here.
Okay.
Right, so it showed the junction, it showed Christie Park, it showed the town centre. They're all here.
Because the ones in this concept look a lot like the ones on like Lee Street, Montefiore, kind of, and the other ones down towards the walkway. And I was wondering if you objected to any of those ones, those developments going ahead. Like next to that. With these small sections.
In what way?
Like for the same reasons, because of the housing and the section sizes.
Depends what they are. I would need to know the figures of how many people, how many single, what is the demand for 1-bedroom houses, 2-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom houses.
Okay,
Possibly 4-bedroom houses. Multi-generational housing. Multi-generational housing, right?
one more question is, Robyn.
Yeah, just a quick one. This is from a ratepayer who lives locally, just asking if for those in opposition, what they feel they could lose if the housing were to proceed. Could you comment on that?
They lose.
Oh, yeah. There'll be stuff like maybe the green space.
Are you asking or answering?
I'll just give you guys.
I guess my answer to that would be the loss of the ability to develop the area, which at the moment goes from the Carrot Park through to the rugby club, and the area around the back of the ambulance station, right, to develop further should that should that be required with the future development of any.
Okay, I think we've had more than 30 minutes. I think everyone's had a fair crack. Unless there's any urgent. I've got one more.
Yes.
Okay, I thought, no, I'm talking about. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're supposed to be 30 minutes, but I'm conscious of the fact that this is a really tough issue, and I'm more than welcome. I do happy that we continue with the public. Thank you very much, Richard, and I'm sure that you'll be with the resource consent process, you'll be there.
Yes, I will be interested. Thank you. Well,
Thanks. Graham?
Yes. My name is Graham Wheaton, a ratepayer in Cooney since '87, although not a permanent resident. Our concerns only on about a couple of issues. One is density. You're bringing intensive city density to a rural town, which I think negates a big part of the merits of a rural town. And I'm not saying we have to revert to quarter-acre sections, but I do feel that this is a density that is just not akin with anything even in your district plan. And it really does need serious consideration. The other aspect I have is that in this information book, that it shows a plan, but there's no rendition or makeup of a streetscape, which is for a decision-making document. It is just provides people with little to no idea of how this is going to look as you walk around that area. There's a photo of a house in Napier. What's that doing here? I mean, surely people who've generated this have got sufficient computer skills to do a decent streetscape rendition of what this development would look like. So people could really understand what they will be getting in this community. So those are my concerns. I'd like the council to take those.
So you have to for us to ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, please? Yeah, all right.
Kilogram. I just wanted to, what did you mean by the density of this rural town? What, when you're talking about the density, what I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, one of the attractions of living in rural towns is that there is space, and but this can be achieved in a number of ways. And the previous speaker was probably more equipped to answer that question than myself. But you can have a cluster of dwellings, but you do need area around them. We're dedicated to that particular development, and I do feel that this is such a change from what is currently in existence in Awakuni. I think it's a serious departure, and it's.
I've just there is green space in that plan, and there are homes that are smaller already existing in Ohakune. That's why I asked the question, what did you actually mean?
Well, okay, but the smaller housing, is that lived in permanently in Awakuni?
Some of them are.
But not all.
Not all of them. But some of these, not all of these houses are going to be lived in permanently.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got the situation in the Snow Mountain area where you have density, but you also have green space.
But there is a green space in the plan.
Yes, I appreciate that. But
okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Rabbit's got a question.
Just a quick one. So you're after quality rather than quantity? And the section sizes?
Well, you can put it that way, but my concern is more that this is I believe that this is a departure from what currently exists for the residents, permanent residents of Awakuni, and that's what I seek you to give some consideration to. And I would really like to see better quality information out in the public as to what this is going to look at from the streetscape. Yeah, and that can be created. I mean, people have these computer skills, not me, but
Okay, thanks very much,
yeah.
Graham, and you're welcome to stay and listen to the deliberation. And any other speakers programmed in? Okay, so we do move out of public forum, please. Brenda, will you move, and Rabbit, will you second that we move out of the public? Thank you. So that brings us now to the confirmation of the previous minutes. Someone who was present at the previous meeting on the 23rd of August 2023.
I'll confirm.
So, Robyn, will you?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you were there. Okay, Janelle, yes. Second that, Vivian. Thank you.
I've got an amendment though.
Okay, good breakfast. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I can't remember what it is. I'm just. It's just the spelling. I just can't remember.
Typo.
Yes, perfect. Can I see you later?
Okay, all right, subject to that typo, whatever it is. Can you remember what it is?
Yeah.
Need to act.
All right.
We'll catch up later, is it? Okay, otherwise I'll put it all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carry. Brings us to item 8, which is of course the Teitei Drive. Can I just in the introduction to this subject, just saying that it's as a result of a public meeting at the end of August, you recall those who were present that there was a lot of issues that people had, local people, and turned up and forth, and we commend them for doing that. And so I undertook to actually have what I call then a special meeting to report back to the community after talking over with staff and others to address some of those concerns that people had regarding this particular topic. And I know this is not a special meeting, I get that, but it's the closest we can get to a public meeting, and for obvious reasons, getting people together is sometimes difficult. And it's been a 2 or 3 week response time to address some of those issues. I just want to point out this report. There's a few things that have happened since the start of the report. This report was given to you as individual members. I just want to make it quite clear that this Teitei Drive addresses the need for warm and dry homes in Ahukuni, and the project responds to the community's demand in housing and supply. It supports the council's economic and social wellbeing goals. It provides warm, dry homes in Ahukuni and residents need in need. And in my view, there's no harm in any shape or form of Carrot Park or businesses or any public safety. Now I confirm that we've got legal advice and it's indicating that the entire process is robust and is being following obvious legal lines. The resource consent process will take into consideration the assessment of any processes, including objections, and it'll be publicly notified. Objectors can participate in the process as well. So, in my view, by not adopting this today, we are going to be breaking the commitments, and the risks associated with this is huge. Our reputation, our relationships, and our future funding is all at risk. So I believe, and I'm very clear in my own mind, that I'll be supporting this proposal, and I urge the council to consider this particular resolution or this motion, because I think it's so important that we progress this. But I'm happy to go around the table and ask questions of the report, because that's what we're dealing with. And if someone is keen to move a motion and get a seconder, then we'll bring it up for debate.
Well, I'll move a resolution to receive the report, and I'll make a resolution to resolve to continue with proposed Teitei Drive.
So you move this for a second. So that what that does is you're welcome to ask questions as well. But what we are doing now is we're in debate, and so quite happy to hear pros and cons. And then Fiona, if you do wish to take up your right to have a response at the end, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you.
So please speak. As we go to my ask to speak.
Often in governance, we have to make calls. We have to weigh up the pros and the cons, the fors and the against, and there's always some, and that's why we sit in governance and took up this role. In terms of the housing strategy for Rotorua District Council, we have to consider the need that exists, and it does. And it does throughout our country. Council has to consider whether we could afford it, and the last council did. But they entered into a partnership with Kai in order to make sure that the risk was alleviated, I feel, from the ratepayer. And then I'll go to this one. So partnering with stakeholders to promote housing within Rotorua is crucial for several reasons. Resource sharing, collaboration allows Rotorua District Council to pool resources, including funding, expertise, and manpower, or womanpower, should be, with other stakeholders. This can lead to more cost-efficient and cost-effective housing initiatives. Secondly, diverse expertise. Different stakeholders bring diverse expertise to the table, including knowledge in housing policy, construction, financing, and development, community development. This collectively leads us towards a well-rounded solutions. 3, community engagement, and I'll talk a bit about that later as well. Involving various stakeholders fosters community engagement and input. This helps ensure that housing initiatives are met with actual needs and preferences of the local population. For iwi engagement, and I feel this has been met with partnering with Ngāti Rangi, and they are in full support. 5, funding opportunities, partnering with stakeholders such as those who have web partners. So this gives us access to additional sources of funding and investment for housing projects, not just for Ohakuni, but for the region. And that's what we're here for. We're not here just for Ohakuni and Teitei Drive, we must consider this for our region. Economic development, affordable and adequate housing can contribute to the economic development by attracting businesses and residents to the area, leading to increased tax revenue rates and job opportunities. Social wellbeing, adequate housing is a fundamental component to social wellbeing. Partnering to address housing needs can improve the overall quality of life for our residents. And we must remember we are in a deprivation index of 9 throughout Ruapehu, and that hasn't moved for some time. There's only one way to go, it's 10, and that's the worst in the country. So we've won for that. So, this is important. Our housing is important for the people that actually live not well here. Long-term sustainability. Sustainable housing practices include energy efficient design and construction and can promote it through the partnerships that we are trying to build. And sharing risk mitigation, sharing responsibilities and risks with other stakeholders like Kāinga Ora can help distribute the burden and mitigate potential setbacks and all challenges in the housing process. And I could keep on going, but I'm going to go to, however, we need, and it's obvious, to get our communication with our communities much better. We have to inform them earlier. They are really interested in where they live. And I think that's where this council really should consider moving forward, move into our other housing strategies. We are desperate for one in Taumaranui, but we need to use this experience as a learning curve, because some people are upset, although I have spent a lot of time in Ohakuni in the last 3 weeks, engaging with people and businesses on the streets and in their homes. And they are the ones I've spoken to, 90% are actually in favour of housing. They just want it managed well, and they want to know what. And as soon as you take away the social housing or the emergency housing and the riff-raff talk away from that, and you educate them about what we're trying to achieve as a council, they're like, I'd love one of those houses. I'd love that. But we just need to ensure, Clive, that our community comes with us and they feel like they're part of it. We're always going to have the nays, the pros and the cons. But from my experience, from what I've been out, and yesterday I came to Ohakuni and spent the whole day here. Actually, I was here till 9 o'clock at night, from 8 o'clock in the morning, trying to engage with as many locals as I could, and not one of them spoke against the development that they're trying to have here. And I've spoken to people in Taumaranui and Raitahi as well about the housing here, and they said, can you please do something in our areas? But we have to manage it much better, and we have to bring our community as well with us. So that's why I made the resolution.
Hi, I would like to speak to the tourism aspect of things, so the work accommodation, and just to address some of the things that were brought up at the meeting that we had here with a lot of community engagement. So being a tourist town, lovely, picturesque, wonderful, brilliant place. People want to move here. People want to be dual residents. They want to buy holiday homes. Understandable. Why wouldn't you? Great place. However, we need people to service the town. And if you have somebody who has a warm, safe, healthy home, then they are better able to do that, which means that visitors coming to the area have a better experience. Now, I've written a thing so that I don't keep doing what I normally do, which is talk too much. Here we go. Tourism is part of the lifeblood of this town, and it attracts visitors from far and wide. And while this industry brings prosperity, it also brings a surge in the demand for labour from hotel staff, restaurant workers, cleaners, and more. The people who make these destinations flourish often struggle to find suitable places to live, a challenge that can affect their well-being and the sustainability of the local economy. First and foremost, affordable housing in these areas is essential for fostering a thriving community. By offering affordable housing options, we not only provide a place for those who contribute to our town's growth, but also create a sense of belonging and stability. When workers have access to decent housing, they are more likely to stay in the community long-term, invest in it, and become an integral part of its social fabric. That means our people won't have to move away to find somewhere to live or for a better job. The affordable workers' accommodation is crucial for the tourism industry's sustainability. High turnover rates due to a lack of affordable housing can disrupt the smooth operation of businesses and result in a constant cycle of hiring and training. This instability can ultimately tarnish the quality of services and experiences our tourists seek, negatively impacting our reputation and future visitation rates. Additionally, social housing or public housing and affordable workers' accommodation are investments in the wellbeing of our workforce. When employees can afford to live close to their workplaces, they spend less time and money commuting, reducing stress, improving their overall quality of life. This in turn enhances their job satisfaction and performance, benefiting both the workers and the businesses they serve. In the long run, having these housing options available promotes economic resilience. A diverse and stable workforce can adapt to changing tourism trends, ensuring the continued prosperity of our towns, even during challenging times. To address this issue, it is crucial for our council, businesses and our community to collaborate. And having this development that encourages the ability for people to have affordable housing and workers' accommodation in a partnership plays a vital role. And furthermore, we must emphasise the importance of responsible tourism practices. In conclusion, it's affordable workers' accommodation in tourist towns cannot be overstated. The importance of it is not only a matter of providing shelter, it's about fostering thriving communities, sustaining the industry, and ensuring the well-being of those who contribute to the beauty and allure of our destinations. Let's work together to make our town not only breathtaking to visit, but also an incredible place to call home.
Thank you. Vivian's online. Vivian?
Sorry, I just have to apologise. Everyone's coming out for a cup of tea, so there's a little bit of background noise. But what I wanted to say, can I speak now, or are you going around the table?
No, you're the next speaker, so.
Okay. What I wanted to say is there is a need in our community. The site has been chosen. That's a given. Housing needs to be affordable. That's a given. My issue is with the land, and I know I keep bringing this up. My issue with the land is that no one willingly gives their land away and says, here's the land. Even the Evie wouldn't say, here's the land. You build on it. I don't get a say. And ensuring that our people go into those properties. There is no written insurance that we get to put our own people who need those homes, who live in those communities, into those properties.
Sorry,
Māori, non-Māori, this needs to be for our community.
Vivian, we're having trouble with the background noise.
Okay.
Can we come back to you? Perhaps I'll give you the.
Okay, you come back and I'll run into another quiet place.
If you don't mind, thank you. So,
Okay. This is obviously a topical issue, and it's been going on since 2020, and there's a lot of history, and it's morphed a lot of times. And the space that we're in at the moment isn't the space that we began at, and it's nobody's fault. But I'd like to go through this in a logical way. And as you read through this agenda item and the timelines of discussions we had to make, you will see that we started off with one intention and we ended up completely in a different outcome. On the 5th of August 2020, our housing proposal was based on adding to the housing stock in Taumaranui by effectively building smaller retiree houses on the flat land around town to entice some of our larger homes around the schools to become vacant and free them up for families and workers and renters. Page 45 in our document here, and let's get it back to the agenda item, states by October 2021, there'll be 6 homes built at Cherry Grove. That's how far out we are and we were. We were considering current values, current cost of land and buildings, our ability to deliver, potential partners. We recognised we needed to update, thanks to Reece, our public housing strategy, and we went into consultation, good consultation in late 2020. It was pretty stock standard. We had a lofty ambition. There were simple responses required. The document was really simple to fill. There wasn't much interest really. We held the meetings in Ohakuni here, and I recall, as I said, Richard talking about providing good quality housing. I was the Rotorua Ward councillor at that point, so this is how long ago this was, and I didn't get engaged much with our Southern Ward ratepayers during that engagement and period. And our 5-year strategy did mention, as I said to Richard, the 44 lots of Teitei Drive. That was the potential. Reece Anderson had been contracted to RDC from the get-go to facilitate this conversation. In fact, our first workshop that morphed in the housing direction, she facilitated it. And she's had to be fairly nimble, moving from option to option as the goalposts changed. She was integral in defining the Taumaranui-Mananui spatial plan, which is super detailed and is going through a rigorous process to enable smaller density in certain areas and residential in some commercial zones. It's the process that I was expecting to happen for Ohakuni. We'd had many reports from her, and this is another report that leads us in a direction. It doesn't necessarily point out all the facts. That's the issue. If you're reading this from a new council perspective, and even you, Mayor, you get an opinion, but it doesn't give us the facts from the beginning. But I want you to note that the housing strategy was consulted in 2020. And then the Ohakuni Spatial Plan came out in March 2022. And I'll quote from some of that. We all got a copy of it as I requested. It should have been in this document, but I'll quote from that. 2 new medium density zones around Christie Park, the junction, and in proximity to schools. A comprehensive and integrated approach to development is likely to be successful than a slow opportunist approach. It's essential that medium density is properly defined, supported by clear design guidance to ensure the outcomes and housing topologies permitted are right for Ohakuni and the needs of the community. Protecting the blue-green open spaces is a high priority. The recommendations regarding higher densities, those sections larger than 450 square metres, should be embedded in planning provisions, should address matters such as access, daylight, green space, acoustic privacy, visual privacy, storage and outdoor living space. And the map on page 3 of the Ohakuni spatial plan that we got the other day has no high density development for Teitei Drive area. We weren't thinking about it back then. But how did the spatial plan miss the housing strategy? It wasn't actually connected. Who didn't connect those 2 important documents? So, do I think that the Ohakuni community has been adequately consulted? No, they've actually been deceived. I've spoken to a range of people about this proposal. I've heard some that are a bit ambivalent to it. One lady who's renting a 2-bedroom house for $360 a week, long-term, and cleans Airbnbs, said the problem is there's too many short-term rentals. Lots came into the market game as the government rules around housing and rentals were rolled out. And some are coming back into long-term rental market with the downturn in tourism. So that's fluid. And RDC is trying to sort that out with our shorter-term visitor rate. Some people are philosophically opposed to government providing housing, and are adamant that local councils should avoid it for anything but the elderly, which is what we saw at Waimarino today, and that's a great thing that we're involved in. I spoke to one lady who is keen to move into a new home. She currently, so out of them all, I only had one. She currently rents a house from her sister, and her kids are always sick because of the mould. I suggested there are government rules to enforce landlords to provide dry, healthy homes, but she said she didn't want to upset her sister. She'd just move. And then she told me the best thing about this new development was that it was beside the Carrot Park. Her kids are really noisy, and so she'll just let them run the energy off at the park. As you heard, the Carrot Park is world famous in New Zealand now. It's a destination playground funded by philanthropic local businesses in excess of $250,000. RDC, us, are investing in a council-funded children's playground at Christie Park, where the medium density development was supposed to be. That was their argument. That's why we've got there. It's also but the Carrot Park's also adjacent to Teitei Drive. It was designed to attract visitors coming into town to stop. It's a destination playground as opposed to a community playground. I think that once this whole project had morphed into what we have here today, it breached our significant policy. If you look at the significant policy, I'm not going to go through it. If I find it, I'll lose my space. But we meet the high impact on the first 5 determining aspects. Without a doubt, we breach our significant policy with this current proposal that's in place now. We were advised that it didn't, using the arguments on page 44 and 45, but was based on them. But that when we were advised that it didn't breach our policy, it was based on 6 houses at Cherry Groves. How we've got to where we are now, and it's been had to be the negotiation that Clive has had to do. We definitely, this proposal breaches it, and we need to consult with our community. As a second-term councillor, now with more experience about this, I believe this decision breached our significant policy without a doubt. It's definitely been about a series of moving goalposts, trying to fit a brief while meeting impossible deadlines, keeping government ministers and officials happy and meeting their needs while trying to keep that end goal of more houses in Ruapehu at the forefront. We've been forced to do it in confidence, which meant proper consultation was impossible. And I think we've made a mistake and not done the right things by our ratepayers. If we had had proper consultation, everyone could have had a fair say, and then we would have made the hard deliberation, but it would be democratic and inclusive. The other major concern I have about this proposal by HNZ to build 44 houses on ratepayers' land and then give them to Kaingaroa to manage is that the plan will not meet our laws, our bylaws, let alone the spatial plan for Ahapuni. This has been a really convoluted, awkward process and left us as the council using ratepayers' land as our share of a housing project that provide houses that are needed. But 300 square metre sections won't allow for acoustic privacy, visual privacy, outdoor living space. It's a high density urban development in a rural mountain ski town, tourist town. It's a high density urban development. If you force us to make a call, so Weston, you started this conversation by explaining that you called this, put this agenda on our, put this report on our agenda today because of your commitment to that Awakuni community. Doesn't mean, so if you hadn't put it on the agenda, we wouldn't be going yay or nay, definitely today.
I can answer that.
And so, if you force us to make a call between putting this on hold to allay some of these justifiable concerns or going ahead as is, I'm going to be voting to terminate the agreement. I'd rather we let the matter lie on the table and engage effectively and honestly with the community in a proper consultation process. We do have the time. This has been not only a moving goalpost, but it's been time important, because that money, the $5.7 million, that carrot has been dangling in front of us. We're 3 weeks away from an election. If we terminate the agreement now, the fear is that we might not get the money. But if we don't terminate the agreement now and we go ahead, the fear is that the government will change and we won't get the money either. I have checked, I've asked for advice from LGNZ, because I really feel that this is such an important issue for us. And apart from triggering our significant policy, beating our bylaws, the risk is 50-50 whether we get the money or not, because regardless of what we do today, because of the change, because of the dynamic situation with the government, but there is no guarantee that if we let this lie on the table, or that, and we negotiate with the we consultate and negotiate with the we have proper consultation and then negotiate with HNZ and Kaingaroa as we have already. There's no guarantee that we won't get that money. Because it's set in stone like this, an incoming government is not unlikely to let it go through. So don't let that use that as a reason for you to be scared about the timing. The timing today was set because of a community meeting we had a month ago, and we didn't have to come up with this decision now. And I don't think that we do. We still do. And I'd rather it lie on the table. And if you don't agree to let it lie on the table, then I'll be voting against this proposal.
Okay, so any speakers against? Is there anyone want to speak against?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as prepared. So first of all, I've got to ask the question. The resource consent, do we have to sign the paper first before the resource consent, or can we go ahead and ask some questions for the resource consent, through the resource consent before we make the decision? What comes first?
Yeah, through the chair, it's a separate process. A lot of the issues that have been raised about lot size, safety, access, that is a resource consent process, and we'll have an independent commissioner to make those decisions. So they could well agree with the comments we received or whatever. So that is a separate process which has been publicly notified. So anything could happen in that process. We are a part applicant with Kangaroo. What the lot sizes that are on it are for the resource consent to consider. The decision that we're talking about today was that we entered into a contract to provide housing, affordable housing. The whole resource consent was because we entered into contract. So if we stop the contract or break the contract, then we don't have a development. It was based on us having an agreement in place, which has been signed, and then the first step was to get a resource consent, and the agreement is subject to a successful resource consent.
So the resource consent says this isn't going to work, we don't go any further, or
The agreement we have with the Crown is that it's subject to getting resource consent for the development. So whatever the resource consent comes up with will be the basis of the development.
Thank you. So now I'm gonna have my say. So while I totally agree that we need housing in Ohapuni, I do have some reservations. I think I would like to see some more research in having the buildings instead of right where they are. I think that we need to look at moving it over closer to further over into the development, into the area. And so that the into the corner, in that corner, and so the access will come out to Ohapuni Raitahi Road. And I'm concerned about that access near the Carrot Park. We seem to be very, very focused on Carrot Park. But as I said, occasionally you can't sleep in a carrot. We need housing, and there's a lot of work being done on the Carrot Park, and I understand that there's more to life than park. And because there's so much dissension within the community and around this table, says to me that we do need more consultation. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been. And what I'm saying is that if some people don't believe they're being heard, then it's not up to us to say, well, we've told you so, therefore you've been told. That's the sort of rubbish that we were told when we were in schools in the 70s and we didn't learn. I'm saying that we need to stop. I think we need to just take a deep breath and have another look, have some consultation, get the feeling, and not just hearsay and not just people unfortunately losing their, getting emotional at public meetings. I think we need to do it properly. And I agree with Lyn wholeheartedly that I think we need to defer this.
Okay, any other speakers? Question, is it a question there? Oh, carrying on from there.
I've found a room upstairs. Lyn's covered what I was going to say. Fiona's covered what I was going to say. This is a really difficult decision. If it's a difficult decision because we don't know what the process for the resource consent is. My issue is with the land. The site's been chosen. It's going to be built, and the size of the homes. It's really teeny, and whether you go up or it's still a small home. So my concerns around the resource consent. So even if we go with this, how do we ensure that those concerns are raised in the resource consent? We can't put affordable housing out and say this house is for you, it's 250,000, but it can only fit. But you've got 3 kids, make it work, because you're already living in a small house anyway. They're buying their homes. So I agree that it should stay on the table.
I think, were you asking a question there, Vivian, I can get the chief executive to answer a question about the resource consent. Did I hear a question there, or are you quite comfortable?
No, I said my answers will come up in resource consent.
All right, I see, right, thank you.
But this comes before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if we actually get the answers we want in the resource consent is what I'm saying. So I'm agreeing to let it lie on the table.
Well, I've got a motion on the table now, and we need to have formal, if there's an intention to have a motion lie on the table, then I'm quite happy to accept that, but then we can come back to the main reason. If it's lost, then it comes back to the initial motion. So I'm hearing, but no one's actually saying that I move.
I'll move a motion to let it lie on the table.
I'll move the motion.
No, you can actually have another motion to that lie on the table, and it supersedes. If it's lost, then it comes back to the same resolution. So
What a second motion.
Yeah, you actually put
Amendment to the motion, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but if the matter lies on the table means it's a stalemate sort of situation. But bear in mind, you can vote that down, and if it's lost, then you come back to the main motion. That's the rule. So yes, you're entitled to have a notice of motion to actually say it lie on the table.
What is lie on the table?
It actually means that you can bring it to another meeting, the whole issue around to the table.
A proper
Now, I just got to, what I'm going to say here is that you have the right as a majority to vote this down if you wish, right? So it doesn't mean that it's a given. You've got to vote on the notice of motion to have it lie on the table. Just be aware of that. So you vote, if you don't like it, if you want to proceed with this, then I would suggest, not putting words in your mouth, that you vote it down. If it is voted down, then you come back to the motion, carry on the discussion. And then that's, we can actually open up discussion again with your right reply. But we've taken note of all those who have spoken on the original motion. You cannot speak again. The only ones that can speak are the ones that have not spoken so far and the right of reply. So the motion, the original motion, which is on the table at the moment, is current and it also can be picked up if the discussion is, or the motion is that we lie on the table. So lie on the table is quite, you can do that, legitimately do that. However, it's not a given it's going to be passed. The fact that you move a notice of motion doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lie on the table. It's got to be voted on, that's what I'm saying. Okay, get that?
Yep. So can I just say that Channey can't get, Channey's trying to get online, but he's got problems with his that. And he now won't know about. Okay. Can we?
In the meantime, I'd like to hear from the Chief Executive about the resource consent process.
You can do that because I've not heard anyone give me a notice of motion. That's what I'm saying.
Point of order, could I have a seconder for my motion?
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is, what I'm getting the message is that someone is indicating that they want that the motion lie on the table. I have not heard anyone say, I move that it lie on the table.
Oh, no.
That's what I'm saying.
Got
I
one
have not
on the
heard that.
table already.
Until
I did move that. I did move that. I moved that the motion lie on the table.
And I second that.
No, not move a new motion. The existing motion.
Well, they're probably saying, yeah.
I think he has.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
still like after that. For my part, I've been accepted. My understanding is that, my initial understanding was, well, my little list as well, that notice of motion supersedes the existing motion.
Through the chair, lying on the table, I listened to notice motion it's a process, but my advice would be, and it's your decision as chair, that we consider the motion that's on, it's been put, it's been seconded, it's then voted on. If it's lost, then someone could say, rather than cancel the project, because we don't have that as a motion, it's
other way around.
It's like the second one. At the moment, we've offered you go ahead or cancel the contract. If the go ahead one is lost, then someone else could say, rather than cancel it, we let it lie on the table. But we do need to vote on the first one, which is to be first.
Well, my understanding is that if we get to a point where we don't want to make a decision, that it lies on the table. That's my understanding. So you don't actually vote on it. That's my
Well,
understanding.
no, it can be, it would be.
We've made a resolution.
But if
Vote on that.
this is moved, and the original motion that I'm talking about, if that is put to the council and is actually carried, then we proceed.
Yeah.
Right. Simple as that.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as lying on the table after that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I don't quite get what has been suggested there. My understanding is that if we can't make a decision on it today, then it lay on the table. That means we don't vote on it.
Through the chair, we've got a motion which is we proceed. If that is lost, then the other option that was given is that we cancel the contract. What I'm hearing is rather than cancel the contract today, they're saying let's it lie on the table so that we consider it again. But the decision today, though, which is put, is to proceed with the development.
Okay, if we're comfortable with that, then I'm quite happy to go ahead with that too. So then can we assume discussion around the table and those who have not spoken like to speak before we have a right reply?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Okay.
So yes, I support that we do need housing. You just got to walk around town and feedback you get from people, we want housing. I agree with Lyn and Deputy Mayor. I think we haven't done enough consultations, so we're hearing that at every meeting we go to. Even on the street, people are still confused about what's happening. When you talk about Airbnbs, we are half the problem why we courted all those people to bring Airbnbs into town, because we wanted the accommodation, we wanted people to come in here. So we can't blame the B&Bs now for what they're doing. The hotels and the motels couldn't keep up with the number of people that were coming into town. None of them have offered to build a 500-room hotel. So we've had to take on the B&Bs. We've put on the D tax, like that, even though it should be a little bit higher. When you were here yesterday, I was up north in Taimarunui. I was meeting a private developer up there who's put in 8 houses onto empty sections. Those 8 houses are hopefully going to be ready for people for Christmas. So they're going to have a nice Christmas present, wherever they're living, in a garage or a house. At least we know that 8 families soon are going to have houses in Tamarunui. And they're looking for more land up there to do more development. So let's hope the council can support these people. I live on a 1/4 acre section, but around me there's 300 square metre sections, and there's only a house on there. There's nothing else. It's just a house. By the time you bring it in 1 metre in, 2 metres up, it's a small house. There's no room for anything else on those houses. So we're lucky that some people, hard-working Kiwis, bought the sections next door and left them as a green space so that the kids can go and play on them. We don't have any parks. They don't want to go all the way down to the carrot park, the fantastic carrot park. They haven't got time, no. They want to just play in this area here. I have asked for a swing and a slide up the junction there, which doesn't seem to have happened so far. At the meeting, the public meeting we had here, afterwards, myself and Deputy Mayor, we met with a couple of people with the Rollstons. They said, why don't you talk to the Mayor of Rotorua? Because I've already been there and done that. So I arranged for a Zoom meeting with Mayor Tania Tapsil. We didn't discuss any confidential information. We were just trying to find out what they did wrong, what we could do better. That's what it was all about. She has a connection to Owakuni. She's married to an Owakuni man. She knows the carrot park. She knows what we're talking about. I see in the report there that they said if we put the through road through from the St. John's through to the carrot park, trucks will use that as a shortcut. Well, I'm a heavy vehicle operator. Why would I take a road that's going to take 2 intersections to get across? And plus, if I go the normal way at the moment, I can meet up at Johnny Nations and get a chocolate clear. If I try to cut through the carrot park, stupid buses can't even park in there because now, and big RVs, it's tight ass. To think a 9-axle truck and trailer can go through there? Stupid. I'm more keen for it to be at the rugby club end. And I see that. I thank you for the email that you sent the other day, Clive, about the costing of what would it cost us to put the road out that way. I reckon that's a grand idea. It's going to cost a bit more money, but it would take traffic out of the carrot park. National says, or everyone says in the election, all this, bribes that are going around at the moment for elections, we're all going to build houses. So when we say that we might lose the money, well, I don't see we are going to lose the money because they've just said that everyone's going to support building new houses. Well, that's what they said in there, what they've been saying on what I've been picking up on the thing there. So there's going to be no shortage of money for houses. So I'm concerned that there was no, like one of our submitters who spoke before about having a nice streetscape plan that we could see what was happening down there. That's really great. I look at those sections. Yeah, there's a lot of 300 square metre sessions, and at that meeting, I took a few of the councillors down there and we pegged out what a 300 metre session looks like. You know, that's stupid. It's all right if you want to have a little hut there for maybe a single person. You know, by the time it puts his cars there, you know, because don't forget, New Zealand's got the worst car to family ratio, the second worst car to family ratio in the world. So if you think only one car is going to park in those driveways, you know, you're on the wrong planet. Everyone, when I was up in Tamanui yesterday, I was looking around. There was some people had 3 or 4 cars in their property. You know, not that all of them were going. You know, but they were there, you know, filling up space like that. So, you know, I think, yeah, I would love to hear, well, I'd like to think that, you know, that we haven't done as much consultation as we should have done. We did, you know, when I look at the spatial plan map, it does say it's not high density down there when you look at the colours, you know, and I look at the some of the places where they are going to put high density. So, well, there's already houses there and they're not high density, you know, so obviously maybe someone who built that map up didn't actually go around and look at Old Journey and see what houses were in those areas anyway, but are already there. You know, our street says it's in the map, it says it's low density. We were après-ski, our subdivision. We're now high density, but on the map it says we're low density. So obviously someone hasn't looked at what houses are there. So, oh, just a few texts coming up, but I'll read them afterwards anyway. But yeah, so I'm happy, mate. I'd be more inclined to. I'm all for the housing, but I think we should need to sit it on the table. Let it, you know, what they say, reflect.
And have consultation.
Yes.
Put it through the consultation process.
Can I just interrupt you? Are you
finished? Yes, good.
Okay. Already speaking.
I've listened to all my colleagues and I echo a lot of them. I've listened to the speakers and I definitely get what they're saying, but we cannot get away from the fact that we need affordable homes. It would have been nice to have it in another area that everybody was happy with, but obviously we've got this piece section now. I am concerned about the 350 size, which is against our district plan, and that would be a resource consent issue. There is the safety element. I've got grandchildren and I wouldn't like to think that they would be crossing over into dangerous line of traffic. That would also be another point that would need to be raised. And I do get that the fact that this has come really fast and going from 2020 to where we are now, and like you say, Lyn, the goalposts have definitely changed. I remember Richard talking about it when I was actually there on a different matter and I was listening, and I could remember that actual conversation about the type of housing. I would like for all of us to be able to agree unanimously, and I think the only way we can do with this is to sit. It's my opinion.
Certainly.
Lay. Just come back with it. I do agree, we do need the housing though.
Okay,
Kia ora tātai. Nei rā tama ia te kia koe te ki te kaupapa nei e pāna ki ngā kāinga I rangi ana ngā pārangata, ngā wānau I te ioi nei. Thank you, Lyn, for your for the history, because I haven't been here long, so I don't know the history, enough of the history, and I've listened, I've heard things that have come from community members. I heard today of Mr. Weston, who's owned a house here since 1987, but doesn't actually live permanently, and like a number of the house owners here in Rotorua. But I just know that the longer we leave this, families are without housing. And yes, we need adequate affordable homes. here in Aotearoa. And you know, for a person who's from Ohakune, and I tell people I'm from Ohakune, they say the carrot. And you know, I say I prefer the mountain because that was here before, way before the carrot. I'm not saying I disagree with the carrot because I enjoy what's going on there. And I know what it attracts. But Ruapehu is where I'm from. Ohakune is where I'm from. And I would like to hear more about the consent, resource consent. However, I on behalf of the people that I represent here, I would like to see this go ahead. I support the motion that's at the bottom.
Okay, thank you for that. We do have online Channey, councillor Iwako. Do you wish to speak? Good timing, Channey, welcome. Do you wish to speak for or against the motion that's on the table at the present time, which is the Teitei Drive item? And we've heard all the speakers so far, and we're coming to a point where we need to make a decision. Are you able to and willing to speak for or against?
Tēnā koe, Mr. Mayor, a koe te hoki nā kākou ni hira, o roa pehi. Tēnei te mihi a koutou I tēnei rangi. Apologies for me having IT issues, but I have managed to be watching everything online and listening to the discussions on there. And absolutely support the whakaaro that's been put forward, the thoughts that have been put forward. Just want to staple my support towards Councillor Eddie Chase, Councillor Neeson and Councillor Hoita. In regards to the whakaaro and their thoughts surrounding this Teitei Drive application. Absolutely support the consultation process again. On our behalf has been shocking. And it's something that we need to get sorted, especially moving forward. So I'm happy to support the motion that's been put forward, put this on the table until we go back to our people and get the whakaaro of the community. I think we need to do a better process around that. Housing is huge. It's huge within our department, in our district. And Rabbit raised a few important issues there as well regarding Airbnbs and whatnot. So my whakaaro, my thoughts, Mayor, we need to go back to the consultation process. Kia ora. Everything's been said, so I'll just leave that there.
Yeah, I think we need to just clarify, Channey, what the motion is, and the suggested resolution on the motion, as is the item on the agenda here, and it's one that will be received, and Fiona Hepi Chase has recommended, or sorry, she's moved that 2A, which is to continue with the proposal. That was her motion. It was seconded. We've had speakers for or against. And so please don't get confused with the talk about it lying on the table. That is not the case at the moment. We're not dealing with that particular item or even suggestion. But what we are dealing with now is the motion that's on the table. So you need to understand that before you vote. That's the point. Okay. So Fiona's speaking for, has spoken for. She's now going to be giving a right of reply to the other issues, but she is in favour of this motion 1 and 2A, which is to continue with the process. So you need to be quite clear and comfortable when you come to vote. Let's make that point.
Thank you for the clarity, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support Headley Chase's recommendation that she's put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I, just before we have the right reply, I omitted to ask the Chief Executive if he has any further information that might be useful before we put this Is there anything that you want to add or confirm?
Through the chair, no, I think a lot of the issues that have been raised will be dealt with through the resource consent process, but I think what you're considering now is the right one, is you're choosing to proceed or what you want to do. So I think you have the information either through the reports or through other things. So I've got nothing else to add.
Thank you. Can I just summarise also to say that, you know, with respect for the comments and issues that have been raised, and also the fact that we've had people, you know, quite anxious to get a result and to continue. And so just to give you a heads up, I once again going to be supporting this motion. So with that, the debate's closed so that it gives the opportunity for the right reply, which of course is to rebut anything that's been said so far, not necessary to give your speech again, if that makes sense.
She said something. No pressure. Tēnā koutou katoa. Mihi nui kia koutou for all of your kōrero. It's all been taken on board, but I still wish to continue to resolve that the proposed Teitei Drive progresses. And though, Rabbit, we can see that you've spent a lot of time in Taumaranui. This project here is about ohakune, and not one person has said we don't want to house people. And that's the take that's on the table today. That's why we're here. Lyn, you said that it's been morphed. Every plan, when it starts, never looks like when it finishes. Never. There's not a plan like that. Everything grows into something else, and that's called progress and development. Rabbit, you also talked about high density. This isn't a high density project. That we're not in the city. This is in Teitei Drive. And I also took on board Mr. Frew. He wants that rural aspect. We're all from this. We're all from here. We want that too, but we ultimately want to house people. Graham talked about density as well, and that this how it looks. We're all really interested in how it looks. We want it to look like how the people that live here want it to look. We're all invested in that. We don't want to look like a city. We want to look like how we, a place where we really want to live, play and work, and some visit. There's another one. I also saw, Lyn, when you brought up this, it's not a process that Ree, and I see Ree, mahi nui kia koe Ree, for being here today, that the Taumaranui Mananui process that you went through, the council went through in 2020. That's only 3 years ago. You know what I mean? It's not a long time. And I think if you're trying to draw things out, well, 3 years is long enough to get something to happen. And I think it's been long enough, and we need to continue to make it happen. And you also talked about breaching the significance policy 5 times. And I think, and I hope, Clive, that if there is that breach, you would have let us know by now. And that's on Clive. And that's why this council hired Clive, is because that's on him. And the site size, the safety, the density, and all of those things will come up in resource consent. So if we don't have this agreement to go forward, then there will never be a resource consent stage, and it will never come out to the public to then come back to us and say, hey, this is not right, because those plans are not actually set in concrete, because we aren't there yet. It's a process, and that's where a lot more time is going to have to be invested by us, by the council, by staff especially, and then by the public. So I'm very happy to continue with my motion.
Thank you for that. Very impressive right reply. I think to the points that other members, that's the intention of any debate, is to actually cover what people's actually well done. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Sorry. With that, so there's no discussion, no, this is to be talked about now. We now get to a point where we do vote for the motion. So perhaps we should clearly read that out so that people understand exactly what we're dealing with here today.
Yeah, through the chair. So the motion that is currently on the table is that we receive the report and resolve to continue with the proposed Teitei Drive housing development.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, we've heard the debate. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Now, please.
Yeah. And through the chair, councillor Errico, can you confirm that that is for the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And against? 3
And the.
Vivian, your hand there, isn't it? Yes, okay. Okay, the motion's carried.
Recorded, please.
Thank you. Recorded. Thank you. So that, which is still in the position. So we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. Would anyone like to take a 5-minute break?
Well, I'd like to say something. That even though you can see that there's a difference in opinion, we should all carry on as elected members and not as something as disjointed. We're put here to make decisions. We're not put here to rally against each other, and we have to figure this out.
That is why I said what I said.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
And I think there's another process too, for the resource consent process. So people that have got those issues can object and can participate.
And that is my only reason why I ruled the way I did. Because I have to have faith that we've got a resource consent process.
yeah.
Well
It's
done.
not going to take into account the things that we've talked about. Resource consent won't, now that it's going ahead. And we've just opened ourselves up to a judicial review, just like Auckland's had and Auckland's lost.
As long as we don't all dislike each other,
Okay.
we carry.
You can have a 5 minutes break and then come back. I know that's unusual to do that, so I think much. Your preference to have an early lunch?
Sounds like 3 minutes to start.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, we've got Peggy through here to give her some flowers because of her QSM and join us for lunch. So that was something we thought would be appropriate. And we'll just double check.
You can give that to you.
I come to see you.
I don't know that that's. I don't know if that's appropriate, but you can just pop into home.
It's going to be lovely.
Actually, I put an apology in.
Yeah, so what is the process there? If you put in an apology, so we had 2 apologies, Channey and Korty. Korty's only come for the vote and now she's leaving for the rest of the meeting.
That's fine. It's fine. Absolutely fine. You can now apologise. You can now apologise for leaving the meeting when it be recorded. That's all you need to do.
Because I did put an apology in and I was.
And it was accepted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for lateness, it wasn't, it was for absentee.
Nice to see you.
I think we'll adjourn for lunch. Might be extended lunch while we wait for Peggy.
You got a long meeting.
I'm just delighted to. Just take a break.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vivian, I'm sorry to cut it short.
Yeah.
If I could,